Hello, everyone, and welcome to our newest project, Wisdoms of Wellness, or WOW for short. During this segment, our goal is to have conversations about some common topics that closely relate to mental wellness and taking care of ourselves and our families. Today's focus will be on anxiety. Hi, I'm Becca.
And I'm Tana.
And we're so glad to have you back. Today's episode is on anxiety. So, let's talk about it.
Yes, let's.
What is anxiety?
Well, anxiety is just a common, normal, everyday emotion that we all experience to some level.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what makes the difference between regular anxiety, like anxiety that I feel in traffic or before I'm about to make a big presentation, compared to anxiety where I need to see a therapist or I need to go to the doctor?
Very good question. So I would say what you described first, perfectly normal. I think everybody has anxiety like before a test or when you're driving or just when you're apprehensive about something, when you don't know the outcome of what it's going to be.
Right.
But when it starts to be a problem and it's persistent and it affects you every single day and it starts interfering with your daily life, then that is when you want to start thinking about maybe I need to see somebody or talk to somebody about that.
Interesting. So what are some of the common symptoms, side effects? What do we experience when we have anxiety? Like what goes on, not just in our brain, but also physically?
So physically, what happens typically? It looks different for different people, but I think sometimes people can feel physical symptoms like they might be warm or they start to feel their heart racing. They might start to sweat. They might just feel a little panicky sometimes, or they may notice that their stomach hurts, or sometimes people have a headache, or just kind of some of those things that make you feel not so great.
Right.
But really what's happening is you're starting to feel something and there's a whole bunch of adrenaline being produced in your body. And so that's what causes the increase in your heart rate, the increase in all of the things that make you feel yucky. Yeah. So if you can start breathing slowly, get those lungs full of air, that gets more oxygen to your brain, to your heart, all around, and that stops the adrenaline from producing at such a rapid rate. Yeah. So really you're kind of tricking your brain into slowing things down a little bit. So that's what kind of helps us get a little more calm.
Yeah. Something you said about anxiety of when it's something is out of our control. And I know we know anxiety, it can be based on real fear, right?
Sure.
Or even perceived. So how do I let go of some of that control? Or how do I recognize when there's something that I can't control, but everything in me is saying that I need to control this person or I need to control this outcome because it would make it so much better because I know what's best for me. So how do you release that, or how do you deal with not being able to control everyone or everything in our environment?
Man, if I had the real answer to that, I'd be very rich.
Yeah.
But I think what we have to do is just be realistic with ourselves, right? Because who do we have control of? Just us. I know. So we can't control anything else or anyone else. So we have to just really kind of challenge ourselves to think about that being reality.
Yeah.
I don't have control over anyone else and how they react to things, which really stinks.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to, you can use something like an acronym called ANT, which means automatic negative thoughts. Most of us have them. Yes. And we can just kind of, like, we think about it and think, what is really true? My automatic negative thought will say that obviously I'm going to go to the extreme and this is going to be horrible and I'm never going to recover. But in reality, the actual thing that's happening is not so serious.
Right.
So we just have to kind of train ourselves to think a little differently and challenge those automatic negative thoughts, the ants, and try to focus on what really is real.
Yeah.
So what do I actually have control over?
Right.
And you can kind of make it a game in your head. Like when you think like really crazy things could happen, but then kind of challenge those and say, that's probably not actually accurate.
Right. And it kind of brings us back to what we talked about in our last episode of taking the time to process those emotions.
Right.
Because I know when I'm going and I am feeling some of those anxious symptoms is I just go, 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 go until I give out.
Right.
And so maybe taking that time to process and know that our emotions are valid.
Sure.
But they're not always based on reality.
Yes.
Our brain is wonderful, but our brain can be a liar.
Our brain can really be a liar.
Man.
Yeah. And that's kind of going back to, taking that time, which is great, and helping us do that with that breathing.
Yeah.
Just really trying to focus on breathing in slowly. It helps if it's through your nose, but just breathe in slowly. You can imagine like your lungs inflating or imagine a balloon getting bigger, something like that. And sometimes when we do that and focus on that, it gives us that time to really challenge the negative thoughts, and we can kind of get some perspective back.
Yeah. So what if someone is experiencing a panic attack? Maybe it's you or someone else. How could you help that person or even help yourself? What's going on with the panic attack? And then what are some basic things where we're not injuring them, but we're also not injuring ourselves?
Yeah. So I would say if that's happening, the breathing is key. You have to get more oxygen to your cells so that the adrenaline can stop producing. But that's really much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Especially if you're really starting.
Right. Just breathe. That's all you need to
breathe. If you tell somebody that, they're going to be like, seriously?
I'm trying to.
I really could have done that myself. But it is really important to kind of try to, if you're talking to someone who's experiencing that, just talk softer to them, encourage them to think about a different thought, do something, think about something differently.
Yes, distract them.
You can also talk about breathing with them, encourage them to do that. But you also kind of want them to try to use a different part of their brain.
Yeah.
So you can kind of encourage them to think about, 3 things they can see, 3 things they can touch, 3 things that they can, those kinds of things.
Bringing them back to the present. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that really helps kind of slow things down. Again, it's just about slowing yourself down, which again, like I said, is much easier said than done.
Right.
But if we practice breathing differently every day, that gives us time to focus, but it also helps us do it when we really need to. So if I'm more comfortable taking slower, deeper breaths, then when I really need to do it, when I feel myself getting keyed up, it's much easier to catch it before it turns into something worse.
Much worse.
Much worse. Much less comfortable.
So let's say someone does you agree that it's not just a regular anxiety. This is affecting every part of my life. It's affecting my relationships, etc. What are some of the first steps that you would recommend them to do?
I would say, first of all, of course, we want you to come see us at Empac, right? But I think it's also important that you engage your friends, your family, your support people, and just, talk to folks about, do you notice this in me? Are you noticing that this is affecting my daily life?
Right.
Listen to the people around you because they know you.
Right.
And they know if maybe you're going through something and maybe you seem a little bit different or a little off, or maybe you're avoiding activities or avoiding being around people because it's too anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
Just listen to your support people and trust yourself that if it feels like maybe I need a little bit of something, trust that and give us a call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I love talking about anxiety, and it's a hard topic.
It is.
And especially that we know that 19% of Americans are experiencing anxiety.
Yeah. And that seems like a low percentage to me.
Right.
But
low percentage. So I'm glad that we could do this and talk about anxiety and hopefully help people get better. Let you get better. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's time to wrap up for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember that Empac is here as your employee assistance provider, and all of us here are dedicated to our mission, which is believing that healthy, well-balanced people make thriving companies and strong communities. By leading with service, compassion, and partnership, we want to invite you to contact us to learn more and to get ready to thrive.